Well, hello everyone and Merry Christmas! This is the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world show made for fans by what? A fan. And this fan wants to wish you all a very Merry Christmas. I'm your host, Richard Tiemann. This is Football and Nonsense. My apologies for the postponement, scheduling conflicts, and illness in the household. What do you do? But never fear, for the power of rescheduling is here, as I was able to rebook my two guests for today's part 3 of our Christmas special. James Fuller, the head coach of the Maine Mammoths, and the one, the only, the Grinch. That's right, the Grinch will be on later on. First up will be Coach James Fuller. He's scheduled to be on. But, you know, normally I start out these shows with headlines, and there wasn't a Thursday night game last night. Normally this show would have aired on Thursday, but you guys get it on Friday. This weekend is Christmas weekend. Of course, Christmas is officially Monday, so I'm wishing you Merry Christmas 3 solid days early. We'll recap Christmas possibly Tuesday. Be on the lookout. I don't know if I'm going to do a best of, or if we'll jump right into it. It just depends on people's availability and what I'm able to book. So I wish I had a more clear answer for you as far as next week goes, but I don't, and that's okay. So instead of headlines, let's go ahead and go through our Christmas wish list, or at least mine anyway. And I think for a lot of us, the NFL, we love it, we hate it. I compared it to cigarettes this week. People are still laughing about it and saying, did you really do that? Yeah, I did, because it's totally true. And they're like, when you think about it, yes, it is. It's sad, but true. The NFL, like cigarettes, cool, addictive. It's easy. Like everybody does it, right? The product sells itself. And for the head of officiating to come out and say, after that Jesse James play, which we're still apparently all reeling from, and we're almost a full week removed from the incident, but nothing's going to change. And I feel almost hypocritical saying that nothing will change when this is sports we're talking about. And in the world of sports, nothing is ever like set in stone. We've had people be removed from record books when the whole Penn State scandal happened. All those championships were taken away. Why? I don't know. Like, what good does that do anyone? If people years later found out that they tested positive for PEDs, will have their Olympic medals or Heisman trophies stripped from them. I don't quite understand the point of it. I really don't. It's like we're living in the here and the now. And sure, baseball had its era of juiced up players. But can we really just blank out pages of history like it never happened? Because for us that lived it, we know it happened. But for the next generation, for our kids, our kids, you know, our grandkids, what of them when they look back on why are there all these blank spots when it comes to this event or this game or this thing? And you have to explain to them, well, because they thought that would fix it. And the truth is that nothing can fix it. You have to be in the here and the now. WWE removed almost all record of Chris Benoit. So that WrestleMania 20 main event, the triple threat, it just says that Triple H defended his title against Shawn Michaels. I mean, it's crazy what people will do to try to right a wrong, even though when it's sports, a lot of the times we're talking on the field versus off the field. And for the most recent events and examples used for this argument, stuff that happened years prior. So for me, if we're going to have officiating admit to something that happened that was incorrect during a game, well, then something needs to be done about it. Otherwise, what's the point of bringing it up? Because if nothing's going to change, I don't care to hear about it. I said this on the show last year. I said, I don't care if you're wrong because it doesn't change anything. So we don't need an explanation from the head of officiating who said Ben Roethlisberger completed threw a pass to Jesse James, at which point he caught the ball. Like in his first sentence, he says Jesse James caught the ball and then went and made a football move, and after reaching over the goal line, so again, the play should have ended right there. He reached over the goal line, touchdown, but it didn't survive the ground. So number one on my Christmas wish list, either explain what the hell surviving the ground means or remove it from the rule completely. Let's simplify this because we're simple people. We're Americans or whoever it is that tunes in from all over the world, but we like things kept simple. So number one on my Christmas wish list, let's get back to keeping it simple. Let's water down the what is a catch rule. Let's not go from 4 paragraphs to 5. Let's go from 4 paragraphs to 1. Just a sentence. Did he have control? Yes. Catch. Not did he have control before making a football move and surviving the ground? Was there any kind of movement with the ball before the player was in a position where he could possibly... No. Stop it. Stop that nonsense. This is coming from the show that is football and nonsense. And I can't deal with that nonsense. So number one on the Christmas wish list, let's get this catch thing figured out, okay? I think we can all agree on that one. Number two, 49ers, please sign Jimmy Garoppolo. Because if you don't, I feel like you will have made a huge mistake. 3 games at starter, 3 W's for that team. And I know a lot has been on the foot of Robbie Gould, but man, everyone I have talked to says you guys got the deal of a lifetime when you made that move to get Jimmy Garoppolo. And props to John Lynch, GM of the year, hands down. That dude has been signing and grinding, earning and burning, and making moves that are going to, we will remember this year as the year that shaped us for the better or for the worse. My money's on the better because I think Jimmy G is the real friggin' deal. So 49ers, you're on my wish list number 2. Sign Jimmy Garoppolo to a long-term deal. And then, number 3, let's go ahead and give him a supporting cast. Keep Robbie Gould, obviously, special teams. He's been great. Pinion, I'd like to see Goodwin stay, as well as Kendrick Bourne, Matt Breida, and Carlos Hyde. Let's keep Joe Staley. Let's keep a lot of the defensive guys, Buckner, Foster, Thomas, okay? Let's continue to build with the young talent that we have and keep the veteran leadership where it is. The Bowman loss was a huge loss, but it's one that I'm willing to accept as long as we continue to grow. And I think that this team is going to be something in the next 2 to 3 seasons. This test against the Jaguars is just that, a huge test. Jags fans, they're nervous, and I love it. I love it. That's respect. That's mutual respect between fan bases and teams. I'm like, I don't expect us to win, but man, what if Jimmy G does? What if he throws for 300 yards again against one of the best defenses, if not the best defenses in 2017? Does that finally solidify that he is the guy? And a lot could change next year, but man, I'm hoping and praying that this is it. Like we suffered enough with the decisions that were made regarding Harbaugh and everything else, and that finally we're on to greener pastures. So that's number 3. Let's keep the guys that we got. Number 4, I'd like to see a bit more parity in the league. The Steelers and the Patriots are always there, and I'm not saying that I want them to suffer like a key injury or loss, but it's, let's try to keep our guys healthy as long as we can, as best we can. So I think that starts with preseason. Let's go from 4 down to 2. And whatever, Thursday night football, if you got to get rid of it, get rid of it. Because I would rather see Deshaun Watson and Aaron Rodgers and all these guys, even Odell Beckham that got hurt that are not out there. We want the best product possible, and we're not being given the best product possible. We're being given the best product that they can right now due to the circumstances. So that's number 4 on my wish list, is that we try to keep our players as healthy as possible. A lot of these injuries were non-contact ones, but you got to, Drew Brees made a great point after that Thursday night game that, hey, we got to do something about this because these Thursday night games suck. And let's keep football on the homeland, all right, on the mainland here. Why do we need to have a football game in London and Mexico and Japan or China? We don't. Simple as that. We don't. Next one, number 5, developmental league. I want it. I've wanted it for years. Let's do it. And Vince McMahon might be well on his way to making just that. So I encourage this. So number 5, let's get a developmental league. Number 6, I want wireless headphones. Seriously, when I'm at the gym or at work and I can have headphones on and I've got a cord attached to me, it's the most annoying thing ever. So number 6, I want wireless headphones for Christmas. I know I went way off the beaten path on that one, but it's okay. You got to keep things light. Number 7, I'd really like to have media credentials for an NFL event, whether it be a 49ers game in 2018, the Pro Bowl, the draft, even the Combine. Some event next year, that's my goal, and I want the tour, obviously, to go as smoothly as possible. But yeah, number 7, I want NFL credentials for really any event. I would happily accept credentials to the Pro Bowl and go down and be happy as a clam. And number 8, because my lucky number is 8, and we're going to end the list on this note before I bring on my first guest, is I would really like to see some of the guys in the Indoor Football League and the National Arena League and the Champions Indoor Football League get a chance at the next level. Jack Bramswig signed with the CFL, and that's fantastic. I want more of this. This needs to be a trend. Let's give these guys their first chance, or maybe their second, instead of giving guys like Johnny Manziel back in the day their third or fourth chance. Let's get talent from where they're actively trying to keep themselves healthy and better and perfect their craft. So I want to see some of the guys that I've built fantastic relationships with get to that next level. So that's my wish list for you for Christmas for this year. And last Christmas, I gave you my heart, and the very next day we got John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan. So it's all right in San Francisco. Jimmy Garoppolo. I'm excited for this Sunday. But that's going to do it for this opening portion of the show. Headlines are is that the AFL, the Arena Football League, is probably going to call it quits next week, make the official announcement. That's what the rumor mill has in store for us. But we've got some Indoor Football League and some National Arena League to talk with my guest next up, James Fuller of the Maine Mammoths. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this. You're listening to The F.A.N. Show, your home for all things football and nonsense. My special guest tonight, Farouk. Farouk, welcome.
He's no expert, but here's the thing. Football and nonsense is what he brings. Sports talk with a twist. It's The F.A.N. Show.
Do you know him as Kevin from the League? It is none other than very funny Steve Ranazisi.
99% of the population doesn't know who I am, but the 1% do. They yell and scream inappropriate things at me in public.
Kyle Ray. Kyle, welcome.
And I was like, wow, I think we just saw the whole Super Bowl, Phyllis. It's like that scene in The Simpsons. Like, why rent the movie? I just saw the best part.
Funny man Brad Williams.
Yeah, I'm here. No, I flew in just for your podcast. I've heard about this podcast. I've heard it's fantastic.
It's Mac and Farva, but they are my special guests tonight. Steve Lemmy, Kevin Heffernan.
I was in Mexico for 10 weeks in a Speedo. Like, that was me going to work. I was putting on a Speedo.
Farva is the most fun to play, and it was a blast to do that again, to do Farva again.
So then the makeup artist had to put Vaseline on your body, right? Yeah. And then put the powdered sugar on top of that. Is your name really Richard Siemens?
Listen live every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday night on Spreaker.com, or subscribe to the podcast on iTunes and SoundCloud. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I am back, and with me is the head coach of the third expansion team out of the NAL, the National Arena League, and that is the Maine Mammoths. It is Coach James Fuller. How you doing, Coach?
I'm all right. How you doing today?
Doing pretty good. 'Tis the season, and it's the most wonderful time of the year. Obviously, for you, this is an adventure. It's an expansion team. It's the first time a team has been up in Maine. And when I talked to Coach Billy Back, he said that your guys' lobster is so good that he almost took that job instead of Carolina. Just how good does Maine have it when it comes to the seafood?
I think we got it pretty good. You know, I'm from Seattle, so I think I know a little bit about some seafood. I still take Seattle's crab, Dungeness crab, and a few things in the salmon, but that Maine lobster is definitely something that everybody has to go taste.
Yeah, it's something that if I make it all the way up there, that's like first thing on my list. So it's been the word on the street, and of course I know that Maine is known for its seafood, but I guess the lobster is like where the buck stops. So you guys are going to be well fed.
It is, and they find every which way to put lobster in there. So I'm definitely going to try every meal that's available to me.
I wonder how many ways they can prepare lobster, and if that's like a good pregame meal for your guys.
That we'll use it for pregame, but we can definitely use it for some postgame celebration, huh?
Yeah, there you go. That's the spirit right there. So you've got this expansion team on your hands, and it's the Maine Mammoths, which interesting choice for mascot. But how did this one land in your lap? Like, how long have you been coaching, and what led you to Maine?
Man, I've been coaching in the Arena League since, 2099. Around in there, and then I got out for a little bit in 2010. Did a few other things in the PIFL, but just wanting to get back into playing on the big stage. The NAL has a lot of opportunities for coaches and players out there, and I think it's an upcoming league that will eventually catch everybody's eye and be the premier league for players to go play in. And Maine's, it's a beautiful spot. Reminds me of Portland, Oregon, where I reside now, a little bit, with a little bit of, that seaside, that Newport feel to it. So it was a great place to go visit. So after I visited, I thought, hey, it's a good opportunity for me, and it's an expansion team, but, I like the challenge.
Yeah, and it certainly will be a challenge, as is any head coaching gig with an expansion team, just because you're doing everything for the first time. Even if it's not your first time, it's the first time for that team. And I wonder, because Maine is as far up at the tip of the U.S. on the map that you can get to, and your comparison to Oregon and Portland, I've frequented there before, living on the West Coast myself, and so I know that when Portland had football there, the Thunder, it was well received. What's been the reaction like in the market and the community for this football team in Maine?
It's been remarkable. When we had a press conference, we had the Chamber of Commerce there have our back. The arena has given us pretty much everything we want. The city's been real receptive to everything we're doing. They're really pushing to try to help us out in every aspect, whether it's our housing, whether it's trying to keep costs down for meals and things like that. So we're definitely getting a good vibe coming from the city, and as well as the athletes there. We're starting to get a lot more interest in us, especially this last week. So it's definitely looking up, and the city's got our back, and we look forward to putting something out there they can be proud of.
Yeah, you're only about 5 hours from Boston, and then, of course, with that comes the rest of the East Coast major cities along that area. So you definitely have easy access to players, but, a lot of people talk on a professional front as far as the Browns. Draft time comes around, they've got like one of those top 5 picks. Does a quarterback want to go there and be another name on a list, or do they want to go there thinking that they can be the one to turn things around? When it comes to an expansion team in a place like Maine, is that ever a selling point for recruiting, that, hey, you have an opportunity to come and be a part of a brand new team and bring a championship somewhere that there hasn't been a championship before?
Yeah, I've heard that a bunch from guys, guys who've made names for themselves at other teams, giving me calls and saying, hey, I want to do something new, I want to start something new. A lot of these teams, have a lot of vets on them, who have been there for, 3 to 5 years and are comfortable there. And I understand that. They've been winning games. But, I'm looking for that player who wants to do something different, wants to try something different, and is not afraid of success. When you go to an expansion team,
you got to be pretty confident in your play, because you are stepping on the field with guys that have been together for years and years, and the competition is high, but the market is definitely something that we push, being where we are, being close to Boston and that East Coast, and it's a bigger market, and a lot of guys want to move up to Maine to play because of the market. But I also think a lot of guys who I spoke to want to come to Maine for the challenge and to just be a part of something new.
Yeah, I think when it comes to leagues like this, IFL, CIF, NAL, when it's all about the experience, the film, and the opportunity, you kind of have to give yourself little challenges where they present themselves because, I mean, there's some turnover in leagues. Some teams will come and go, but to be a part of something for the first time, not knowing what it's going to be like after that first year, if the Maine Mammoths are around 10 years from now, then you have a group of guys that said, yeah, I was there when it all started. And I think that's great for young, hungry athletes because it gives them, sometimes just enough, just that little extra to go out there and be competitive. I'm curious, though, with the Mammoths, is that some kind of history with Maine? Because lobsters make sense, but the Mammoths, I'm lost.
Yes, it is, and I found this out. I don't know the exact history, but keep it short. I guess they found some mammoth bones in Maine. I don't know when. It had to be a long time ago. But I guess they found some mammoth bones, and that kind of spurred, the mammoth name. And, I mean, it's something in the history books. I asked my president, Will, and he gave me the spiel, and okay, well, we're the Mammoths. Let's go,
Well, I guess, that works. If it works, it works. I think your guys' color scheme is great. The helmet design is fantastic. I've always been a fan of helmet designs that kind of, it's not so much a logo, but more of something that incorporates what the team is. So it resembles something like, what you would see with the Rams or the Vikings. And I think that's a great look for you guys. So you've got everything as far as the look, the name, the market down. When you assemble a front office, though, or a coaching staff for a brand new expansion team, how much of that is on you as the head coach, and how much do you need to run by the GM and then, of course, the owner as far as what your vision is for the team?
Well, all football ops, and I mean signings, coaching staff, I take care of all that. Our ownership has been really good, and Will Riley, our president, has had my back through this whole thing, kind of helping me with some of the local guys. But I get to set up my coaching staff as well as the players. Now, there may be some issues with certain players that I may not be aware of that some of the ownership may be aware of, that I would have to run by them. But other than that, I make all the moves as far as football ops are concerned. And when looking at a coaching staff or putting your coaching staff together, I think for an expansion team, you got to put a staff together that can branch out and reach players because you are behind the 8 ball. I mean, we just started, 2 weeks ago? So other teams have been able to sign players starting in August. So we're a little behind, but we're going to catch up, and we're getting noticed fast and getting a lot of contact from players that are hungry and wanting to play and come to Maine. So we'll continue to plug away at it, but most of all, the decisions as far as football is on my shoulders.
Gotcha. And that's the kind of setup that I like, that I think is probably the most effective one, is that the owner puts people in the places they need to be, and then he lets them do what he hired them to do. Because too many times we see owners and GMs kind of overstepping what their, I guess, kind of boundaries are, and then it usually doesn't end very well. So it's good that they have put that much trust in you, and I think it's obviously well deserved given your tenure as a head coach. One thing I was curious about when it comes to an expansion team in a new market, is there such a thing as star power when you're assembling a roster? Is there, for a league like this, is there a player that you think, okay, so we've got this new team in this new market, let's try and get one of these 3 guys to help with ticket sales? Or is it pretty much your effort on the field, wins and losses and points scored, is going to do the selling for you?
Well, I think it's a fine balance. I think you do got to have some star power. I think you got to have some players that, fans have heard of and known or heard their name in college from U of Maine or some of them other schools down there. So I think you got to have some of that. But also through my experience is that once you get players there in the city and they're busting tail for you and they're making plays, usually that city makes them their own. So, as long as you're winning games and guys are doing the right things, the crowd usually takes them under their wing and kind of says, hey, now you guys are part of us, from my experience. But there is something to having that star power, and having somebody that people have seen maybe play 2 or 3 years in college, and then to come back and represent their home town and state. I think that does have some validity. I'm trying to balance and do both at the same time. We're looking to still try to get that guy that we want to say, hey, this is the guy you guys grew up with looking at, and we're going to continue to do that. But at the same time, I think Maine will make these players theirs, no matter where they come from.
What's on your Christmas wish list?
On my Christmas wish list, man, is probably to get a few more defensive pass rushers. I think that is where you can make the quarterback on the other team uncomfortable. I think that's where you can make some headway in games where you can just keep pressure on the quarterback. Good things will happen for you. Offensively, I feel if you can protect, I think offensive linemen are the other thing, because there are skill guys everywhere. I mean, everybody wants to catch the ball. Everybody wants to score touchdowns. So that's probably the least spot where I'm worried. Offensive linemen and defensive linemen make the world go round, just like in the outdoor game. If you can protect ours and get after theirs, I think you'll be in good shape.
Well, you've got 3 expansion teams entering the league this season, and there are 3 teams that right now are, head coached by some of the best in the business. I know Amir Ishmael personally from when he was over here in Spokane. You have a great track record. Billy Back, I got to know him last season in the IFL. So, normally you see one expansion team enter, and of course the mindset, the goal is, hey, let's have a good, successful inaugural season. Let's win, and if we make a playoff berth or a championship, those are all bonuses. But when it comes to 3 expansion teams, is there like a friendly kind of rivalry going on between the 3 of you that, we don't have to make a championship. We just have to be better than the other 2 expansion teams?
Yeah, I guess there is. But I don't look at it like that. I've heard a couple of guys talk about that we sign, hey, we just got to beat this team or this team. But I don't look at this as an expansion team. I think with as many players are out there, I think you can still put together a quality team out there. They can challenge some of these big dogs, some of the Columbuses, the Lehigh Valleys, the Jacksonvilles, who've been around a while. I know every coach in the league. I've competed against every coach in that league, except for Cy. When Cy, as a player, I coached against Cy, but I know Back very well. I know Amir very well. Me and Back have had our battles. Me and Gibson have had our battles. So I think you take it one game at a time, like the old cliche, and as an expansion team, you got to win early as an expansion team so you're not chasing late. Regardless of who I coach and where I'm coaching, I think you got to get out the gates early, and it bodes well for you late. So I am not looking at us as an expansion team. I'm just going to take this one game at a time and then just keep grinding and tell my players the same.
Well, Coach, I think that it's going to be a very surprising season in the best way possible, and you guys up there in Maine are going to be part of it, and these 3 expansion teams are going to be, I think, very competitive and are probably going to raise a lot of eyebrows. But, you never want to set expectations too high, but I think the expectations from what I'm hearing and what I've seen are set just right. So I want to thank you very much for your time. I know it's the Christmas weekend, but, I love getting to know you guys. I'm very much looking forward to the season, and best of luck to you and the Maine Mammoths.
I appreciate everything, and happy holidays to you and your viewers, and hey, just look out for the Maine Mammoths now.
All right, he is James Fuller of the Maine Mammoths. Merry Christmas, Coach. You have a good weekend.
All right, Merry Christmas.
That was some classic coach talk right there at the end with Coach Fuller. But hey, I think he's the right man for the job there. All three coaches for these expansion teams are definitely the right guys for the job. And I meant when I said that I think this is going to be a surprising season in a good way, very competitive, and it might just come down to the last couple of weeks. But, this is what these leagues are all about. It's about opportunity, and it's about giving the people in those markets and those areas something to talk about, cheer about. And for the players, it's about experience, opportunity, and the chance to be a part of something new, different, or even great. And talking to Coach about teams in Maine, of all places. I mean, could you imagine a championship team from Maine? Wow. That right there, if you're part of that team, then you get that forever. Unless, of course, they swoop in and say, no, there was this, and we got to take that win away and that championship away, which I really hope never happens to these guys, but still. So that was, once again, Coach Fuller, Maine Mammoths of the National Arena League. As I said, really the only breaking news was the rumor that the Arena Football League, which the Tampa Bay Storm announced yesterday that they are ceasing operations for 2018 effective immediately. That leaves them with 4 official teams, but there has been no news from the league as far as a schedule or expansion teams like out of Albany, New York, which was a hot topic that they were going to have the 5 from last year and get a 6th, maybe even a 7th. They're down to 4, and the rumor is that next week they will make the official announcement that they are in fact folding. For how long, I don't know. But a lot of people thought they were done last year when they lost 3 teams and got cut down to 5. And they went and they had themselves a season and they had a repeat champion in the Philadelphia Soul. I would feel terrible for those athletes because I know that Philadelphia loves its Soul. It really does. And they kind of wish that the Eagles would be more like the Soul and win championships. But still, it's a city that loves its football in all forms. And maybe some of these teams that are not, like if the AFL folds, hopefully there's still enough time that they can join a different league. And if they can't, then at least they can get their stuff in order and set their sights on next year. But a lot of people thought the AFL was done last year, and they weren't. But they very well could be done for good this time. What does that mean for the AFL? What does that mean for the teams, the players, those arenas? I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine, but that's next week. That's after Christmas. So if all you want for Christmas is an AFL and to have a season, I certainly hope that you get your wish. But that was what I heard yesterday. So my next guest, it's time for the Grinch. Don't go anywhere. We've got more of the F.A.N show coming up after this.
This is The Sheet.
Gets me all revved up. My face is now red. My ears are just freaking boiling.
He's so raw that Sky hates him.
Yeah, he had 51 touchdowns, 4,900 total yards.
I know y'all like that, but I got to run. And only in Alabama that could happen, I have to say.
They're so good, man. They would win the Big Ten if they were in the Big Ten. You could be doing something vision-based in front of you and reach down and grab a handful of insane goodness.
Give it to him. Kudos. I'm clapping like a golfer. Very good, Johnny. I'm proud of you.
Wow. You guys agree on something again? I'm very impressed. You ever had a bad week? Just you walk outside, step in a puddle, like right when you walk outside. I mean, how's there a puddle right outside the house? Or you stand on the curb and somebody drives by and splashes water up on you? Or it's just raining on you, not anyone else?
I will tell you, before you go any further, I cannot hear Chad when he speaks.
Good. Here, listen to the sheet, man. I don't really know what we're doing.
Every Saturday morning, 8 to 10 a.m. right here on WBLZ Sports.
Whether it be your industrial, commercial, or residential needs, Gen Service is the electrical contractor for you. The Gen Service team has the expertise, commitment, and educational years to help you solve all your electrical concerns. They have you in their best interest with helpful suggestions to accommodate your every want. Give them a call, no matter the size of the job, at 740-438-7173. Mention WBLZ Sports, and you'll get a discount. That's Gen Service, 740-438-7173.
This is Nick Ciccarelli, the mad scientist of sports. Join me and Dr. D, Derek Jones, live every Saturday night, 10 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Pacific, for the Mad Scientist Sports Lab. The big intellects, the experiments on the chalkboard, and the guest subjects will be rolling in. Mad Scientist Sports Lab, only on WBLZ Sports, where we got balls.
Doug Peffer Painting and Pressure Washing. He has over 30 years of painting experience. He's interior, exterior, commercial, or residential. Doug Peffer covers it all. Is your house looking ugh? We'll call on Doug. Doug Peffer Painting and Pressure Washing. 404-966-3361. Mention WBLZ Sports and get a special We've Got Balls discount. That's Doug Peffer Painting and Pressure Washing. 404-966-3361.
Check out Thursday Night Tailgate, where NFL legends live on. We bring you 5 NFL legends every week, sharing their stories and insights, plus our spotlight on the positive. Hear which players are doing great things in their communities. Now on WBLZ Sports Talk Radio and WBLZSports.com.
You're a mean one, Mr. Grinch. You really are a heel.
You're as cuddly as a cactus and as charming as an eel, Mr. Grinch.
You're a bad banana with a...
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. It is our now yearly tradition that we bring on a special guest for the Christmas season. He's a mean one. He's a vile one. He is none other than Mr. Grinch. Merry Christmas, Mr. Grinch. How are you today?
I'm doing excellent. How are you? How's everyone out there in Radio Land?
Everyone out in Radioland, I believe, is as rotten and as vile as they can be, so I'm sure that just sings sweet nothings into your ear.
That makes the Grinch so happy. I can't tell you how good it feels.
How's things in Whoville?
They're good. We've had a few changes since last year.
Oh?
They've decided that I'm going to be the cheermeister from here on out, and to commemorate that, we have a no-save zone in the entire Whoville village up through Christmas night. So no one's allowed to shave whatsoever. That includes the women.
I think that'll be a hit for sure.
Now, Cindy Lou Who. You remember her, right?
Of course.
A little child that helped the Grinch to realize a few things. She is now a hairdresser and plans to run for president.
Really?
Going to vote. Yes, I think she has a good chance to beat that Grinchy person that's in the office right now.
And what kind of platform do you think she's going to run on?
Her hair. It's huge.
Big hair, don't care. The Grinch's heart grew 2 sizes because of me that day. Something like that.
It did. But you know what they don't tell you, Richard, is you have to go on all sorts of heart medication when it gets that big. I have an enlarged heart.
What size is your heart these days?
Last time I checked, it's roughly 20 pounds.
Wow, that is a heavy heart.
I am a good Grinch now. I do miss the old days from time to time.
Well, I believe last time we talked, there was someone that, if you're a good Grinch, I think they're perfect to take the mantle as the Grinch. And he's a man who is not green, but he wears a hoodie.
Yes. And he bollocksed us again last year. Well, he didn't bollocks us, those silly Atlanta Falcons did. What a game that was. What a game. He has been in contact with me as far as the posts that may be opening up. I don't know if I can give up all this garbage. I love it up here. But he and the hoodie could definitely take over, and I'm sure he'd have no trouble growing some hair on his back.
Could you imagine his speech at Christmas time during the Hoovelation? I think it would be one for the ages.
Yes, I would like to maybe give you a few lines of that right now.
Oh?
Yes, we got something like this. Yes, we're going to try our hardest. We're going to have a good Christmas. That's about it.
We're on to New Year's.
The man has no skills speaking-wise, but that's not what's important. It's his overall demeanor, which I love.
Do you think we'll miss him when he retires?
I don't know. He's quite annoying if you're not a Patriots fan. He's so annoying. He seems to be in that blasted game every year.
Yeah.
I don't know how he does it.
Yeah.
The Grinch wouldn't mind seeing the hoodie step down. I'll tell you that much.
Now, has it reached a point where you would like to see your team get the hoodie, or is that a soul that you would not sell?
It looks like the Grinch's team may actually have a chance this year. Apparently, the big Super Bowl game is being played in Minnesota this year. And the Grinch's team has an outside chance to get there.
That's right, and it was the Vikings, correct?
That's correct. Pillage and plunderers. I admire them for their fortitude and garbage and ravaging things and tearing into things. It's wonderful.
Now, I feel like there's a connection between being the Grinch and being a Vikings fan because of all those years of heartache in the Super Bowl and with kickers and whatnot. Are you sure that you want to stick with the Vikings because they're poised to have maybe a similar ending to an otherwise age-old tale in Minnesota?
Well, let me tell you something, Richard. We had an age-old tale up in Whoville, as you recall.
Ah.
And we had one person who was just the most mean, vile, snakiest, eeliest person who could ever hope to lay eyes on. And what happened to him? So there's always hope. That's what I'm trying to say. Don't count anyone out, and hopefully it won't be more than another, say, 30 or 40 years till they win.
How many sizes do you think your heart would grow if Minnesota ended up not only being the first team to host their own Super Bowl, but win it after all of the years of heartache and to have such a historical postseason and do something that no team has ever done?
The Grinch would need a defibrillator. It would explode. It would make the Grinch so happy if this happened. The Grinch has had a difficult year. Lots of things has happened to the Grinch. And some of them not so good. And so the Grinch could definitely use this year.
Well, I wish you the best in that. And, of course, this is the Christmas edition of the segment that we do, the third episode of every week on the show, and that is the Fan versus Fan show, or this time the Grinch versus the Fan show for the 5 pick'em games that we have here. So if you're up for it, I'd like to pick some games with you and see who can come out on top after this Christmas weekend.
Give it to me, Richard. I can take it.
All right. The first one is the Buffalo Bills in New England to take on Tom Brady and the Hoodie.
Well, as you recall, the Patriots did get embarrassed just a couple of weeks ago, so they're definitely not unbeatable. But I don't see any way the helpless Bills can circle the wagons in this one. It's going to be the Hoodie over the Bills, probably by a large margin.
Yeah, and you'd like to think that if Buffalo is going to be in the playoff picture, which they are, that they could maybe put up some kind of fight against the team that they would ultimately need to beat to get to the promised land. But it's New England, and it's a divisional opponent. We all know how that story ends. But you know of all stories that they can sometimes have a different ending. I will still take New England. The next one is the Atlanta Falcons against the New Orleans Saints, possibly for the NFC South Division title, depending on how the Carolina Panthers do and how the last week of the season plays out.
Yes, the Grinch is looking forward to watching this game. It looks like a very entertaining episode. The Grinch, this is a difficult game to call. I think the Grinch is going to have to go with the Atlanta Falcons. The Saints are a very good team, but I believe that Atlanta has the momentum right now, and I think they're going to pull this one out.
I agree. I could see Atlanta winning, and then if they go on to beat Carolina, they would go from a third to division winners of the NFC South. But the Saints have been the story of the year. I'm going to have to continue to pick the Saints as my sleeper team this season, so I will go against you on that one. You like the Falcons, I like the Saints, and the next one is a very important game for both teams. The LA Rams and the Tennessee Titans. Tennessee has to win, but the Rams, they're looking for that number 2 seed, so they would very much like a win right now. What do you think?
The Rams are 6-1 on the road. I don't see any way, with sort of sabotaging their boss, that the Titans can get away with a win here. It will be a closer game, perhaps, than some people think, but I have to go with the Rams in this one. I think they'll butt the Titans right out of the building.
Yeah, this is a tough one to say, and the Rams are definitely the popular pick, even on the road, so I will as well go with the Rams. The next one is Seattle against Dallas. Both teams need to win just to be in the picture, and they need some outside help to make the playoffs with 2 weeks left. What do you think about this one?
The Grinch is familiar with the area Seattle resides in, and I'm not exactly sure what team that was that showed up last week. I don't believe I've ever seen that team. Perhaps you could explain to me who that was, because it did not look like the Seahawks.
They were
This
imposters.
Is another game. It's another game where perhaps a team that's been beaten and battered just like the Grinch was comes back and shows a little intestinal fortitude, which again is wonderful with Harry. Comes back, shows that intestinal fortitude, and at the Cowboys wins this game. Seattle is still in the hunt, but my God, they've got to play better than they did last week. Seattle.
I will pick Dallas, the home team. I think last week was just a small preview of what could be a long road to rebuilding in Seattle. There's some issues going on there on the field and in the locker room that I don't like. But Dallas, like Seattle, a wounded animal at home. I think they have more going for them than Seattle does right now. So I will pick Dallas, and that brings us to our last game. It's a must-win for one team, and for the other, probably their toughest test without their star quarterback, and that is when Oakland goes to Philadelphia.
Yes, I like the Oakland fans. They remind me of a younger Grinch when I was a little meaner. Would love to go to one of their games. This one's in Philadelphia, and minus the quarterback, I think we've got to see what this Foles can do for the Eagles as they roll into the playoffs. You've picked a difficult game here. The Raiders and the Eagles. I'm going to have to stay with the Eagles in this one. I think Foles will do enough to get it done. I don't think this will be a close game at all. I think it will probably be somewhere in the range of 31-18, 31-15, something like that.
For some reason, I like Oakland in this one. I don't know what it is. They're a road team. They just don't have really a lot going for them, but I think that they need to prove to their fans that this year wasn't a complete waste, and if that's giving them one more week of hope, I believe they'll do that against the Wentzless Eagles in Philadelphia. So I will take Oakland, and that is the 5 games of this edition of The Grinch versus the Fan Show. Mr. Grinch, do you have anything on your Christmas wish list for 2018?
Yes, I'd like to take a bath. I'm a little ripe at the moment, and I think it would be good for all involved. The Grinch wants to say a Merry Christmas to everyone out there in Radio Land, especially to you, Richard. And go Vikings.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Grinch. I look forward to this every Christmas time. You're always welcome on the show. And happy Whovilation, Whoville's most important celebration. You're not so mean, Mr. Grinch. Merry Christmas to you.
You too. Goodbye.
That was the Grinch. Oh, I look forward to that. I really do. I think next year is going to be even better. I love it. It's one of my favorite things as far as when I line up guests on the show. Christmas time comes around. Hey, it's time to have the Grinch on. And I wish there was more occasions to have him on, but I love it. It's fantastic. All right, folks, so we've got just a few minutes here, and we're going to go ahead and put some wrapping paper, probably some candy canes and penguins, a pretty bow, some tinsel, and then, of course, the to and from. From me, Richard, and the rest of the fan show here, which is Team Fan Show, the amazing writers, my wife, my /assistant. But from ours to yours, I want to wish you the most happy of holidays and a very Merry Christmas. So don't forget, you can always go and get the special someone in your life, Fan Show hoodie or t-shirt. Teespring.com/thefanshow is where you can do that, and there's still time to have 10% of your purchase be donated to Toys for Tots. Make Christmas a little merrier for some less fortunate children out there. And then, of course, if you missed any of this episode or any live episode in the past, subscribe in podcast form, iTunes, SoundCloud, and iHeartRadio, where all great podcasts are found. And if you can listen live every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday at 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific, do so at Spreaker.com or thefanshow.com and click Listen Live. You can follow me on Spreaker so that you can get notified by email every time I go live, just in case you forget. You can follow me on Twitter at FanShowOfficial. It's my favorite place to be on social media. It's where I'm most interactive. Like the Facebook page, facebook.com/fanshowofficial. And then, of course, the Instagram and Snapchat both are The Fan Show. Not the best Snapchatter, but the Instagram is decent. Needs a little work. We'll work on that in 2018, right? We'll talk about that on our New Year's episode. And your home base for all things football and nonsense, thefanshow.com. Articles from my esteemed staff of established writers, or whatever that combination of words is. Big thanks to Coach Fuller of the Maine Mammoths and Mr. Grinch for being my special guests on this Part 3 Christmas special for the Fan Show. So once again, Merry Christmas to you and yours, folks. And remember, best of luck to you and yours. Go Niners! And it's all fun and games until you butt fumble. Merry Christmas to all!
Do you remember the time that Mark Sanchez ran into his player's butt? That was funny sports.
Thank you for having me on the show, man. I love the Fan Show.